Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump went at it on the issue of trade last night. Let's check it out.
The question, though, how do you specifically bring back jobs, American manufacturers? How do you make them bring the jobs back?
Well, the first thing you do is don't let the jobs leave. The companies are leaving. I could name, there are thousands of them. They're leaving, and they're leaving in bigger numbers than ever. And what you do is you say, fine, you want to go to Mexico or some other country, good luck. We wish you a lot of luck. But if you think you're going to make your air conditioners or your cars or your cookies or whatever you make and bring them into our country without a tax, you're wrong. And once you say you're going to have to tax them coming in, and our politicians never do this, because they have special interests, and the special interests want those companies to leave, because in many cases they own the companies. So what I'm saying is we can stop them from leaving. We have to stop them from leaving, and that's a big, big factor. And Hillary, I just ask you this. You've been doing this for 30 years. Why are you just thinking about these solutions right now? For 30 years you've been doing it, and now you're just starting to think of solutions.
Well, actually,
I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs.
Well, actually, I have thought about this quite a bit.
Yeah, for 30 years.
I have, well, not quite that long. I think my husband did a pretty good job in the 1990s. I think a lot about what worked and how we can make it work again.
Well, he approved
3 million
NAFTA.
New jobs,
He approved
a balanced
NAFTA,
budget,
which is the single worst trade deal ever approved in this country.
Incomes went up for everybody. Manufacturing jobs went up also in the 1990s, if we're actually going to look at the facts. When I was in the Senate, I had a number of trade deals that came before me, and I held them all to the same test. Will they create jobs in America? Will they raise incomes in America? And are they good for our national security? Some of them I voted for. The biggest one, a multinational one known as CAFTA, I voted against. And because I hold the same standards as I look at all of these trade deals. But let's not assume that trade is the only challenge we have in the economy. I think it is a part of it, and I've said what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a special prosecutor. We're going to enforce the trade deals we have, and we're going to hold people accountable. When I was Secretary of State, we actually increased American exports globally 30%. We increased them to China 50%. So I know how to really work to get new jobs and to get exports that help to create more new jobs.
Well, you haven't done it in 30 years or 26 years.
Well, I've been a senator.
You haven't done it.
And
you haven't
I have been a Secretary of State, and I have
Your husband signed NAFTA, which was one of the worst things that ever happened to the manufacturing industry.
That is your opinion.
You go to New England, you go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Clinton, and you will see devastation where manufacturing is down 30, 40, sometimes 50%. NAFTA is the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, but certainly ever signed in this country. And now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You were totally in favor of it. Then you heard what I was saying, how bad it is, and you said, I can't win that debate. But you know that if you did win, you would approve that, and that will be almost as bad as NAFTA. Nothing will ever top NAFTA.
That is just not accurate. I was against it once it was finally negotiated and the terms were laid out. I wrote about that in...
You called it the gold standard. You called it the gold standard of trade deals. You said it's the finest deal you've ever seen.
No.
And then you heard what I said about it, and all of a sudden you were against it.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but that is not the facts.
Yeah, kind of is, Hillary. He obliterated her on the issue of trade. It wasn't even close. She was reeling there for a little bit. And the thing is, that was early on in the debate. What percentage of people watched the first hour of the debate, or first 30 minutes or whatever it was, and then turned it off? I mean, look, there's got to be a decent number of people where that's the case. And I feel like people who did that would walk away from it going, oh, Trump actually won, and Trump destroyed her. Now, again, if you saw the overall general breakdown I did on it, I think the further along you got in the debate, the better Hillary Clinton did. And the second half of the debate, she kind of obliterated him. He was rambling, and he was fairly incoherent, and she was concise, and she was hitting him on points where she was 100% right. But this is an area where Trump was 100% right, and her record is that shitty where her responses just, it sounds like the bullshit that it is. So look at what he went after. First of all, he started by even mentioning special interests. He's like, well, why do you think this happens? You have corporations donating to the politicians. Politician is doing the bidding of the corporations. These are special interests who are getting their way. And lo and behold, they want these trade deals that allow them to ship good U.S. jobs overseas. Devastating point, totally accurate. Then he says, your husband signed NAFTA. You supported NAFTA. You called TPP the gold standard. So, yeah, those things are facts, and those things are disastrous. And she says, well, look, I was against CAFTA, so I was against one of the trade deals, so back up off me. Hold on now, but just recently, you supported the Colombia free trade deal. And by the way, you were against the deal, and then would you look at that, you took some money from industries in Colombia, and then all of a sudden, now you're for it. Feeds right into the narrative, because it's accurate, of crooked Hillary Clinton. So all of her responses, they were prepackaged, and even though they were prepackaged, they still weren't even mildly convincing. And then Trump goes further, and this is where it was like, Jesus Christ, man, lay off her. She's bleeding, son. He started talking about tariffs. And he started talking about just flat-out protectionism. You know, he at one point he said, Mexico, when we ship our products to Mexico, we have to pay about a 16% tax or so. When they ship their products here, they don't have to pay anything. So, yeah, we are getting fucked on trade, and we're going to change that. And look, this is an area where, you know, I disagree with the entire Republican establishment and the entire Democratic establishment. The establishment agrees on one thing: more free trade, a.k.a. outsourcing U.S. jobs to help out multinational corporations and make the rich richer. This is an area where, you know, the grassroots on the left and the grassroots on the right, the populists, are correct, where we say, no. There's nothing racist or bigoted or xenophobic about having trade policy which doesn't fuck over the workers in your own country. That crazy idea. And think about it, under TPP, we exploit slave labor because Malaysia's in the deal and they, quote, tolerate slavery. You know, Brunei is in the deal. Brunei is a nation that literally just implemented Sharia law in 2014, and we're going to reward them by patting them on the back and letting them in this massive trade deal. So the downsides are just overwhelming. Never mind the fact, again, that we're going to bleed U.S. jobs, that it's a race to the bottom in terms of wages. So this is an area where neoliberalism is way more establishment than even right-wing populism. Like, oftentimes right-wing populism is just this veneer, and it's this, you know, attempt to get votes, but when they get in office, they're just going to be obviously super establishment anyway. But the rhetoric of right-wing populism is much more on point than, you know, the establishment Democrats, where they like, come on, sure, I'm against some trade deals, but we got to trade. We have to trade in general, so we just got to make the deals better. This is what they do. So, you know, we got to tweak the provisions, and then we can do it. But it doesn't matter how many times you tweak provisions in TPP, it's still going to be a fucking disaster. You still have an international tribunal that determines whether or not a government is right or a corporation is right when they have a fight over regulations. That's not a thing. The way it works is if you're in a country, whatever the country's government says, hey, you're poisoning the water, stop. That's it. You got to stop poisoning the water. But they want to make it so that, no, we want to give the corporations more power, make them equal to governments, and then you got to go to an international tribunal, which, shock, is run by the fucking corporations, where they're going to say the corporation is right, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. So there is no, like, all of her apologetics and all of her tap dancing on trade, it's going to fucking destroy her because she's dead wrong. So this is an area where Trump nearly fucking knocked her out, man. Now, again, later on in the debate, it switched completely, and she nearly knocked him out. But on the issue of trade, he destroyed. He wrecked. And I think anybody who didn't sense that on this issue is just lying to themselves. You're just, you know, a blind Hillary supporter if you walk away from this particular part and you go, no, yeah, she did better because I'm with her or something. Be honest with yourself, man. Be honest with yourself. Don't be in denial. You saw it. I saw it. Now, you could say, hey, Trump doesn't have an actual plan to fix it. That's true. Trump, you know, is not going to really actually renegotiate NAFTA, and he's not going to, you know, actually be against trade deals. He might end up signing them. I think that's probably true also, considering he shipped his own jobs to fucking Turkey and Mexico and China, as he says that's the worst thing ever. Well, he does it. So that's probably true too. But in terms of just face value of it, average voter watching it doesn't know as much about politics as you might know or I might know. They walk away from that going, damn, son, he just wrecked her.